This is your reteach for Unit 2 test. Um, let's review what the TEAC said for human body. 712b, identify the main functions of the system of the human organism, including circulatory, respiratory, skeletal, muscular, digestive, excretory, reproductive, integumentary, nervous, and endocrine systems. So you have to identify the function. Could be in words, it could be in a picture, and you have to say how the function is the job and how they are working with other systems. Okay, so remember we had done crime nerds in class. Crime nerds is all of the systems together. So circulatory, remember respiratory, integumentary, muscular, and excretory. And then the nerds is nervous, endocrine, reproductive, digestive, and skeletal. We'll talk about each of those systems as we go through. So circulatory and respiratory, they like to test this together. Circulatory, remember, is just your heart, your blood vessels. It's going in a circle around your body, and it carries. So circle carries. It's going to carry things like oxygen, CO2, which is carbon dioxide, and nutrients from the digestive system, and take it to where it's needed throughout your body. And it supplies all the other systems with oxygen. The respiratory and the circulatory are very close together in your chest cavity. Your heart actually sits in between your two lungs. Your respiratory is your lungs. So if you get a respiratory infection, you are getting an infection in the lungs. And this is our carbon dioxide, CO2, and oxygen. Remember, it carries, or it's the oxygen that's carried by your circulatory system. So a question that they might ask is like this one. The diagram below illustrates the vital process that occurs in the human body. What two body systems are interacting above? And you can see they're giving you O2, which is oxygen, CO2, and then you can see that these are blood cells. Okay, so what two systems are working together? Remember, our blood is the circulatory, and they look like little discs like they can carry stuff. And then our respiratory is our oxygen. So you should have said J, and this was one of your test questions. The integumentary system is the skin. Remember this, our skin, we have multiple layers. It is a barrier. It protects us from germs, and it helps with homeostasis. A question that you were asked on the test was this: the function of the integumentary system is most like which cell organelle? So if we think about the skin, it's on the outside, and we think about the cell and what was on the outside of the cell, we should have said cell membrane, because that's on the outside of each of the cells. The plant cell, there is a cell wall, but remember that nickname was the bones. The cell membrane, we said, was the fence gate, which if we kind of think about our skin, it kind of acts the same way. It's a fence all the way around the outside of our body. Muscular. The muscular system, remember, there's different types of muscles in our body, but its main function is for movement. We do have skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Excretory system, remember, this is our pee or exit system. So pee and other liquids needing to exit our body is going to come from our excretory system. This is our kidney and bladder. And remember, all of our systems work together. A question that you had on the test was this one that has the kidneys and the bladder. So just looking at it, you should have recognized this was the excretory system. So the main function of the system is to D, remove waste. The next system in our crime nerds was nervous. One way I always remember this system is you get nervous in your brain. So if you are going to go and get up in front of the class and you're nervous, it's in your brain. So this is your brain, your spinal cord, your nerves. Remember, this is a system, that tells and controls everything else, and this is where we store our memories. Your endocrine system, on the flip side, endocrine, and this one should be the one that's inside. Endo means inside. Regulates the body with hormones, and brings us back to homeostasis. Remember, homeostasis, home is usually a place that we go to get balanced, rest, get a meal, hang out, and do things that we like to do outside of school. So, homeostasis is a balance. Endocrine is working with to create this balance with hormones. Remember, hormones are carried through the blood because they're little chemical messages. The nervous system controls the glands and tells the glands when they're going to release those hormones. So a question on your test that you would have saw was the gland secretes. Secretes is just a fancy way to say it releases hormones, transports by the blood, the body responds and changes. Okay, so we know glands and blood is mentioned here. So endocrine, because that's inside, and the excretory system, because that's our blood. They are carrying and things in a circle. So G should have been your answer for that one. Reproductive, remember this is our system with babies, and males and females have different reproductive organs. If they're going to ask a question like about reproductive on a test, it's usually regarding genes and genetics, and we'll get into that next unit. Digestive system, this is our poop system. This is also the system that breaks down our food into our poop, right? So the organs, remember, we talked about physical and chemical changes: mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, anus. Remember, we talked about in several of those organs, we had physical and chemical changes. And remember, the system, this works with all systems, but the nutrients are being carried by the circulatory system and the liquid. So physical and chemical change, remember, physical can also be considered mechanical change. This is a physical change, which is usually a state of matter. Mechanical is just another way to say it. And I put the definition for mechanical here so we can look at it. We use a tool or a machine to cause the change. So, for instance, in our mouth, we talked about a physical or mechanical change, and the tool that's changing our food is our teeth. Okay, so our mouth, we talked about a physical and chemical change. We talked about a physical chemical change in the esophagus because that's squeezing. Our stomach, our small intestine. Okay, while a chemical change is irreversible, it cannot be changed back. Okay, and where we said chemical changes is in the mouth with the saliva, the stomach with the acid and enzymes, the small intestine with more enzymes, and that was our last one. Okay, so many processes occur in the digestive system. Which process is best classified as a physical change? Okay, physical meaning mechanical. So we're looking for a tool, something changing it that we can change back. Remember, saliva is adding something, we're adding a chemical. Digestive enzymes, we're adding a chemical. Let's look at the next one. Bacteria converted lactose into simpler sugars in the intestines. Okay, probably not, but let's look at our last answer choice. Teeth grinding. Okay, that's our tool. Teeth grinding an almond into smaller pieces. So 18, you should have had J, or you should have had that on your test, the teeth. Okay, so remember the mouth, we said we had physical and chemical changes. The esophagus, we just had physical. Stomach, we had physical and chemical. Small intestine, we had physical and chemical. Large intestine, we just had physical. Rectum, anus, we just had physical. Okay, and then this should be our last system, skeletal system. Remember, this is our bones, cartilage, ligaments, tendons. Remember, its job is to give us structure, protect organs, and this is where we make our red blood cells in our femur, which is in our leg. Okay, so remember, on test days, super important to practice these things on your own, not just in class. And definitely go back to your anchor charts always before the test to study them. And then always be aware of the teak.